Hi, my name is Jonas. In this video I will talk about how to bring in an animation from Mixamo with root animation. So for this, let's assume that you already have a character in Unreal Engine and you found Mixamo's awesome animations and want to use them. So in Unreal you will have something like this dude, which I created actually in Mixamo. And I have replaced it in the third person character example and actually nothing else. Okay, so let's also assume that you want an animation which involves the character stepping outside of his or her capsule, collision capsule. Then you might have figured that you need to use rootmotion for that. So finally, let's also assume that you pulled out a few patches of hair trying to figure out why your character rotates unexpectedly when activating root motion. So let's take a look at that. Inside our animation here, we have our folder with the animations. We have the standard third person animations, and let's assume that you have downloaded from the animations. We can search for one called raised hang to crouch. This animation, like this. So we want to use this, and we want to use the motion that he has to move upwards. So if you've done what you expect to do, you have downloaded this as FBX for Unreal Engine, and then you will get something like this. I already done that. Got a root motion folder and have an Unreal Engine version of the animation here. Okay, so I will import that onto my soldier, which is the character we see on the screen. Okay, so when we look at this, we can see he's moving upwards, but one thing you will want to notice is that if I click the root, you can see that the root is being projected onto the XY plane. Okay, let's pause this. So this is due to the way that Mixamo handles root motion, the root joint. In Mixamo, the pelvis, or rather the hip, is the root joint, and since we have a excuse me, in Unreal have a root joint, then they create this root joint by projecting the hip onto the XY plane. But this causes a rotation of the root joint, which we will be able to see maybe if we zoom in a little bit on this and then move the animation. So you can see the axis down here, they move, rotate and stuff, which is not good, because once we enable root motion like this, you will notice that he turned. Okay, so let's do this again. You'll see that he's turning the wrong way now, and that I need him to face forward, but he's not facing forward at all. So that is the problem what we want to fix. We want this motion, and also we want him, once he is in the end state, he's going to look like this, and in the beginning we want him to look like this. Okay, and not like turned and facing the wrong way. So let's see how we can fix this. Oh, and one thing else also, notice that it stays stationary on the ground, so even if you were to enable a root motion, he would not stay in place, so this would not work. So how to fix this is by actually reverting to all the standard FBX exports. So once you have this animation here, you want to export this in just the regular FBX. So let's search for to crouch. this one. Oops, my assets. Sorry. Under in my mentions. Okay, so you want to download this one. Select FBX, this without skin, and you also want to take your character that you are using, and it can be anyone, and also export that similarly, and make sure that you choose FBX. I won't show that here, but just assume that you have already done that or will be doing it. What you will end up with is something looking like this, where you have a standard version with your character exported and your animation here, and you want to import those, both of them, into Unreal Engine. Okay, so I made a folder called import here, which I will be using for importing this stuff. So I will switch to the standard folder here, and I will start off by importing my standard character. And this is actually just going to be a placeholder, which we will just use first of all to pull in here, and then immediately export him again. And the reason for this is that when the character is being exported, just ignore that, being exported from Mixamo, they will have all the bits and pieces this guy is consisting of be exported in all the, so eyelids and eyeball and all that stuff as a separate mesh each, and we don't really need that. Also, we will notice that he does not have this root bone. So let's continue and select the skeleton, the pink one here, or purple one, whatever, and export him again. Okay, and we'll call this UE4 export. Okay, so now we have him out of Unreal Engine. We'll start up Maya. And if you don't have Maya, or well, then you can get a free copy from if you are using this under educational purposes. Anyway, and this tutorial is also using it, so you kind of need it. Anyway, so we have a fresh scene here, and I don't know if this makes any difference at all, but on the settings, preferences, settings here, I have the Z-axis up, and I have centimeters and blah. Yeah, well, this is how my preferences look. I didn't change anything really. So I want to import the character that I just exported. So this is on the rootmotion and the standard and the UE4 exported version, and that will bring him in here. So if we click now, we can see that this is just one single mesh. So let's put him away, so we can select the skeleton, and then in here we want to add a new root joint. So go to layers and create a layer from selected, and click this one V to hide him. Okay, so let's add the joint. You do that by selecting this one and just clicking somewhere down here, and it's very small, so let's change the size to 3 and make sure that we have the translate X and translate Y to 0 exactly, and then select the hip and shift select the new root and press P. That will create the new parent child. Okay, and then we want to also rename this to something other than joint 1 to root. Okay, yep, that's it. Okay, so now we want to export him again, and you want to go to outliner and click this little thingy up here to see the mesh, and shift click and select the root. So you have these two selected, the mesh and the root. This is the skeleton, and then you want to go to file and export selection and call this standard with root. Okay, and just ignore this one. Okay, so let's bring him in, and actually we don't need this stuff here from the import folder now anymore, so we can just mark everything up and delete it. Okay, so import him again, the one soldier standard with root. We don't need materials, we don't need textures, because this is just a placeholder. But this is going to be the placeholder that we will be using for and on. So why did I get this animation? We don't have anything. Okay. Okay. So if we click on the dude here, okay, I think we got the skins in a way. Great. Well, thank you. Okay, so checking the skeleton now, we have a root, and that's cool. That's what we needed. This is what we actually need. You also need to make a retarget of this. So let's just make this straight away. So let's select humanoid. We have selected our skeleton and the humanoid, and then we want to match up each of these one by one. And you want to do this for all the standard joints. Oops. And you also want to do it for all the hand and stuff, hand joints as well. But I will not do this in this video because it's going to take a bit of time, and actually you don't want to sit here and watch me do it. It's boring as hell. Okay, so it's the lower arm, forearm probably, hand, it's going to be a right hand, and neck is up here, head already set, and the thigh is down here, and the calf is down here, and the foot, and the thigh, right, almost done, right leg, and right foot. Oh, this one. So, as mentioned, you want to do this also for all the finger bones, for the left hand, the right hand, and also for the ball, left and right. The rest you don't want to do anything with. So once you have that in place, click Save and close this one up. This skeleton here is going to be your template, which you will be using every time you need to do this an import with a root animation where you have the animation fixed. So you want to save this one. This is reusable for any further ones you make. So keep that one safe by saving all. Excuse me. Okay, so let's take a look at the animation now. So let's clear up the scene in Maya. Get away and import the standard animation. So we are now working again with the standard FBX export version of the animation, braced, hang to crouch, standard. That's just what I called it when I exported, after I exported it and renamed it. Okay, so we have that imported now, and I believe this animation is only 34, yeah, something like 34 frames long. So let's set that to something like this. Okay. So here we have the animation, and as you will notice, we don't have the root here either. So that's what we're going to insert now, just by doing same as before. Gonna put one here on the ground. Say 3 and 0 out the translate both x and y, and select the hip again, select the root, and press P to create the parent. So, and rename this to root. Okay, so this by itself does not fix anything, but now we have an animation which was built this way and was working this way, but we have a new parent, and that parent is staying on the ground. So all we need now is to translate transfer all the translate values from the hip to this one to get this to move up with the character. Okay, so let's do that. We go into Window, Animation Editors, and Graph Editor, and then we select, let's select the root because it's easier to select, and press arrow down to get the hip. And then copy all these, translate X, Y, and Z, goes Control C, and press arrow up to get the root, and Control V to paste them in. So this copies all the keys to the root. So, but we still have them on the hip, so let's remove them or do something with them at least. So what we want to do is go by them each one at a time, and what I'm doing here is saying, okay, this is where it starts, and this is where it needs to be all throughout the animation. So I'm going to select them all, select this one, Region Tool, Scale, and Move keys, and then just going to slide this up so it's going to be flat. Sort of flat, yeah. And I'm gonna do the same for the Y, and this time it starts here, so I need to be a little bit more careful, and I want to select everything. Maybe I didn't get everything there. Except the first one, and then I want to run this down about there, and this about there. Let's zoom in and see if it looks kind of okay. Yeah, well, it does. If you really want to be precise, you want to move this up a little bit and flatten it out. Okay, doesn't really matter as long as it's kind of flat. Okay, and the translate C is just gonna be moving down like this, so it's gonna be flat from the beginning. Okay, so that's actually all we need to do. We can close this one up and then review the animation. And what we want is to have this follow our character up in that order, so to get the root motion. And we can see it's working. Very nice, very nice. Yes. Also notice that yes, when we select the root here and check the rotation X, Y, and Z, and scrub on this one, we don't have any values at all. So we now have effectively the animation as it was originally, without any rotation on the root for Unreal Engine. So we can export this. So select Export All, and call this the braced hang to crouch standard with root. Make sure that you export with animation checked and bake animation, and check that it looks correct here. Okay, and I'm, by the way, using FBX 2014-15. So yeah, export it. So now we have the animation here, and let's bring that into Unreal Engine by importing and selecting it here. And we want to use our soldier standard with the root skeleton. That's the one we just made. Okay. Right. So, but what we actually want is to have it down on this dude here. So they kind of look the same, but I want them because I have all my, let's assume that I have all my other animations and functionality built around this this skeleton. So I want to now retarget him and duplicate onto the soldier. This one, they look the same, but they are not the same. So down here on the mesh, I now have a copy of this. So I drag this in under animations. Okay, so this is our original animation, and as you can see, the root stays on the ground. And this is the new one, where you can see, maybe you can see, maybe you can't, but let's pause it a little bit. You can see the root is here and it moves up with us. And the animation looks correct as far as I can tell. The hands are not working because we didn't match them up. But anyway, if you enable now root motion, he will pop down to the ground and he will make his animation on the ground, which is what we want. Because what this will do is to drive the motion upwards now, so it's gonna look correct. So the last thing we need to do is to just we have this. Actually, we don't. We want to put this montage, pull in the root version in here, like this. And if you're wondering what this set walk state is about, then let me quickly mention something about that. In Unreal, if you want to have root motion on the Z-axis and get this to work, you need to set the character into flying mode, and that's just needed, otherwise it will not work. So in order for this to work, we play the montage, selected here, and we set it to flying, and we also need to set him back to walking eventually. So that's what this set walk state is about. So this is basically just right clicking, add notify, and type in set walk state, and then inside my blueprint for my soldier, I have this right click and then notify something. I think it's the top one, this one. You add this one to get the red one, and then I'm getting the pawn owner, casting, and getting the character movement, and setting the walk on the movement mode back. Okay, so if we press play now and notice the collision capsule is with us right now, and now press U, and see that the capsule follows up with him. So let's move over to something that we can actually climb up on and press U. And as you can see now, he just magically walks up and stays on the box, and that's what we wanted. So you can use this technique for all these animations where, yeah, as I mentioned in the beginning, the character steps out of this capsule. That could be something like rolling, jumping, climbing, all that kind of stuff, all the fun stuff actually. So I hope this helps somebody. At least it was something kind of a revelation to me when this first started to work. So I hope it helps somebody else also. Feel free to ask any questions if I skipped something or it was unclear. Otherwise, I will also have a written description of the main steps to perform to get this result here in the description. So thank you for watching, and until next time, bye.